Alright, so I'm ready to begin installation, or restart installation, because I had actually started it and then decided to come back and paint it. But the first thing I'm going to do is install this swivel base. And for that, I'm going to need these few parts here. I'm going to need the base, the other part of the base, the two locking nuts, and then this centering pin. I'm going to put that in there like that. And I'm going to put the centering pin into my vise here. You can see it's pretty loose. Doesn't matter what orientation I put it in, so just gonna put it that way. And then I'm just gonna hold this in place like this and put the base onto the centering pin. There you go. Next thing is these carriage bolts have a square base, so you just fit them into these square holes here. See if that's all. Closer. There we go. So they just fit in just like that. There you go. And then from the other side, you install the locking pins. And that's pretty much all there is to base installation. And so that is the base installed. There's a little bit of slop here, and I think that's probably because of my centering pin being busted. But like I said, I'm just going to lock this down. When you loosen it, essentially it just slides like that. You know, those jagged teeth are actually not going to be touching one another when you're rotating it. Next order of business is going to be getting these jaws on. I want to do that while this is still apart because it's going to be a lot easier getting them on the dynamic jaw. Well, actually both jaws while they're still out of there. So I'm going to do the same procedure as with the bare surfaces of the base and just wipe it down one more time and put some fluid film on there, especially back here. Don't want it to rust. And yeah, we'll go from there. The parts that you're going to need for this are the 8-inch jaws, the 4 screws that go along with it, and then the 2 pipe jaws. I've already reattached these pieces in the previous video, so those are good to go. I can actually just pop those in, but I just want to give them one more quick wipe. Alright, so I'm ready to install the jaws. I'm just going to go ahead and pop them in. I'm going to keep the large pipe orientation up, and they should just press right in there. No. Same thing on the dynamic jaw. Oh. This one needs to be... You see how easily it went in? I don't want them to just pop out very easily. So I'm going to expand this a little bit here. So that it's a little bit tighter in there. So I mean, it is free floating, but I still don't want it to just fall out at any point. That seems to be okay. Alright, so the next part is going to be installing these jaws here. First thing I'm going to do is just test where they're flattest. Alright, so I'm just going to start the screws a little bit with my hand. You're going to like to put Loctite or something like that on there if you feel the need. I don't really, so I'm not going to install any. There's not a whole lot to this. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten these one at a time. Get them nice and even. Give it a couple taps. Good. So essentially, I'm just going to fluid film this very thinly one more time, and then I'm going to buff in some Johnson's base wax. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip it in here, get a little glob like this. I'm just going to apply it, give it a nice little spread like that. And there we are. That's basically all it's going to need. Now I'm going to just remove a lot of the excess. And there we go, just gonna let that dry. And that's all there is to it. Now for the main body, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because I can't actually reach in there very well. And I may actually leave a little bit extra in here. I may not take most of it off. And then I'll just slide it in and essentially just wipe off the excess that way. So I just wetted it with the Johnson's paste wax. It's already really slippery. Obviously, when I get further out, it gets a little bit tougher because there's going to be more force on this this top section and stuff like that. That's going to keep it from sliding more. But once it's almost all the way in there, like it slides almost freely. So that's good. I think I'm going to put maybe one, maybe two more coats on there and get it really nice and slick. And that's all there is to that. So the next part of this is going to be installing this end cap and the casing nut. And you want to do this at the same time because the casing nut has a flat end here. And essentially, it's going to sit in this dynamic jaw just like this. Actually, it's going to sit a little bit above it. So it's going to let you align this end piece a little bit easier. But you're still going to have to make sure these holes align. And that's going to be the annoying part because this has a pretty tight fit, actually. All right, so the first piece, or the first part of it, is going to be reinstalling this dynamic jaw. I've got it lubed up as much as I'm going to get it. I'm going to slide it back in like this, and now we're going to install the end piece and this casing nut at the same time because it only installs one of two ways, right? There's a mark on the bottom, and this essentially, since mine had a bunch of grime and stuff on it, I can still see where that groove, that marking is on the end piece. But if yours doesn't, this mark on the bottom always faces down towards the key. And it only installs one of two ways, either this way or 180. And the way you know is with this key, that means it always goes down. And then you want to install the casing nut because it has this flat end the same way. So the key faces down and the flat end faces down because that's how it's going to fit into the dynamic jaw. And I'm just going to slide this in a little bit. And unfortunately, the casing nut is too small so that it still is able to rotate within the inside of that dynamic jaw. So you can't really use this for alignment purposes. So I'm perfectly flat right now on the dynamic jaw. It's just hanging here like this. And I can tell that it's on the groove. So I'm just going to try pressing it all the way in and then straight up like that. And the holes for my pins are here. Now, unfortunately, when I was taking this apart, I noticed that these pinholes really, there was a lot of, they weren't aligned perfectly. So this is going to be a little bit of a nuisance to these perfectly in there. But, so I've got it aligned, and I'm just going to knock it in slowly. Get a piece of wood here, get my dead blow hammer. So it's definitely rotated too far clockwise by about half a hole size. That sucks. Alright, so this is what I've done. I just put a piece of tape on there. And I don't know if you can see it at all, but I cut it so that these two pieces are separate. And essentially what I'm looking at is just this top part here. I need to rotate this piece counterclockwise just a tad. Alright, so here's the best way of getting this out. Assuming you can remove your dynamic jaw. Just get yourself a dead blow hammer. And there you go. So now I'm going to try and reinstall this a little bit more the other direction. So it looks like my phone ran out of capacity as I was shooting the last part of this. But essentially, I got the pins in. Wow, that's really bright. And it looks like that. The pins went in really easily, as I showed before. But like this one is actually pretty loose. I may be able to just push it there. But yeah, anyway, like I said, I painted them, so it looks kind of like that. Not bad. So there's not a whole lot left. I'm gonna go ahead and put the end piece on next. Here we are. So it's not perfectly flat, but it shouldn't stop us. I already put fluid film all along here, and essentially we're just going to press fit it on there. You can see it's all kind of wet. That's all fluid film essentially. And hopefully I painted far enough on here so that it's all the way covered up when I insert this. So I'm just going to start it a little bit. Oh, actually, there we go. I can just do it by hand. I don't think that was on camera. But I was able to just insert that one-handed. Look at that. Nice. And you can see where the paint line is. Maybe 0.5 millimeter short, but that's totally fine. There it is, end cap on. Domed out as well as I could do it. Alright, so I'm ready to lubricate the lead screw. I've got my super lube here. I don't think there's any special directions. The mechanical properties of this are actually really similar to the synthetic grease, just the regular bearing grease. So if you have that, just use it. I just wanted to give this a shot because I'd never used it before, and it's kind of clear. So I think I said 15 of these threads were as far in, or were still exposed after the casing nut. So 1, 2. So that's 15 right there, and I'm just going to go maybe 2 or 3 higher. So the lead screw is lubricated, and now I'm just going to spray some fluid film on the rest of this exposed threads here. Should be more than enough. And then I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off the excess like always. Actually, on these threads, I'm going to leave them kind of thick. So basically, this ring is just going to sit in here like this. We're going to put that in there. And then I'm going to begin threading the lead screw in. I'm actually going to have to move this closer to the edge here. All right. And now the only thing left is to put this retaining ring on, and we're done. Alright, so the only thing left to do is install the screws into the retaining ring. So we're just going to put the retaining ring on here, like this. It's lubed up, so it's going to tend to slip. And these are 10-32, 3/4 inch long, button head socket cap screws. These are actually grade 8. I had to replace these, as you may remember, and they're Blackhawks finish. You can also go with stainless. Those are probably the two I would recommend. I have these, so I'm just going to use them. And I would probably put some thread locker on there, but I just realized I'm out, so I'm just gonna screw them back in. Yeah, I don't like that. You can hear that. And that's because the head of these screws are a little bit too large. Like I said, these are button head. And they're actually scraping against the spindle part here. So I think I'm going to grind these down just a tad so that they aren't touching anymore. All right, so just ground the flare those screws down a little bit. That's basically what they look like now. And they fit much better. I already have 2 of them started. I'm just going to do the last one, and then I'll just show how they fit. And like I said, if you have it, put some thread locker on there. But there we go. That's how they fit now. You can see there's a little bit of a gap now, so it turns a little bit smoother. Same thing on the other side. But yeah, it's a little bit better. So I'm just going to finish installing these here. There it is. And there she is, fully refurbed. This thing just spins freely now. It's now mid-April, and I started this the very end of November, so I guess we're looking at 4 to 5 months is how long it took. Mostly because I was busy a lot of the time. But yeah, it's definitely been a long time coming.